It is imperative that we see Mr. Moorhead, Miss Granger.
I'm sorry, you've just missed him, Mr. Holmes. He was very upset when he left.
Do you know where he has gone?
No. A boy delivered a message, which Mr. Moorhead read privately. Then he asked me to shut the office door on my way out, which usually means he's opening the safe. A minute later, he left without saying a word.
Do you have a key for the office door?
No. Mr. Moorhead and Mr. Gardner have the only keys as far as I know.
Perhaps we could get it from Gardner's body at the zoo. Inspector Gregson must still be there.
Watson. I'm sorry to inform you like this, Miss Granger. Mr. Gardner was found dead at the zoo. In any case, Watson, there were no personal effects found with the body.
That's dreadful. Who could have done such a thing?
Damn it, Watson. Show some more tact. So we have no key? Now we need to resort to some good old-fashioned vandalism.
Here it is, Watson. A sinister message indeed. Listen, Watson. Be on platform 2 at the St. Pancras station in 10 minutes if you want to see your partner or your client again. Bring the pendant. Come alone. I'll be watching you. There's not a moment to lose, Watson. St. Pancras station will be deserted this time of day.
It's in a very safe place, where you'll never find it, never!
What? Will you risk the lives of 2 others as well as your own for a cheap pendant? You're a bigger fool than I thought.
You're right, I am a fool, to come here alone and unarmed. You're a fiend, Hunt! My guess is that Frederick and Miss Carraway have already met their maker.
You can join them.
Stop right there, Hunt. You've been nicked by Sherlock Holmes.
Ah, the famous Scotland Yard jacking office. Pretend copper. You're less than a boil on my backside to my way of thinking.
We shall see, Mr. Hunt, we shall see. Where, incidentally, is Miss Carraway?
Never heard of her.
If she's alive and you tell us where she can be found, the law may go easier on you.
Pull the other one, Holmes. The law's got nothing on me.
Dr. Watson and I witnessed your execution of Mr. Moorhead.
Nonsense. That lunatic attacked me, and in the struggle he fell under the train.
Scotland Yard, I'm sure, will have a different interpretation of the events.
Let 'em. It's your word against mine.
Besides, I'll make it my personal business to connect you with the disappearance and murders of Anna Carraway and Frederick Gardner.
Don't make promises you can't keep, you silly sod. Gardner got eaten by lions is what I heard. You'll never place me at the scene, as the yard boys say. Now, since you're not a real copper, and a bit of a dim bulb in the bargain, I'll learn you one more thing. You'll never find the Carraway woman alive, and without her, you have no evidence. So, Mr. So-called detective, I might become better acquainted with the Old Bailey, but you'll tie nothing on me that will hold fast. Dartmoor Prison will never see my face again.
Quite right. You'll hang at Newgate if I know anything of British justice.
As for you, Holmes, I'll make you pay for sticking your nose in my affairs. I'll have my revenge. That's a promise.
So many have said so, yet here I stand. You're going to the Bow Street Police Court, Mr. Hunt. I hope you're not too particular about your accommodations. Where do you live, by the way?
Stuff it.
We must find Miss Carraway, Watson, and hope that she is still alive.
Of course, Holmes, but how best to proceed?
Perhaps a visit to Bow Street and a chat with our Mr. Hunt. Remember, too, that Moorhead's secretary spoke of a safe in his office. If he ever had the pendant in his possession, it's likely that's where we'll find it now.
Brilliant as usual, Holmes. Shall we go?
We shall indeed.
I'll need to smoke more than 2 pipefuls of my slow-burning shag to sort out this muddle.
No, there's not enough tobacco in Virginia to fill the pipes I would need to solve it on my own.
I'm sure that we could all use a bit of slow-burning shag at some point. Oh. So let's head back to here and find the safe. A million jokes involving the word shag and I kind of fluffed it. Never mind.
Miss Granger, I'm afraid I have more bad news for you. Mr. Moorhead has been killed. I need to get into his safe. Can you help me?
Both of them dead? How tragic! What will become of me?
Watson, do you have something that might calm her?
It should be better in a few minutes. Perhaps we should look for the safe while she recovers herself.
Good plan, Watson.
Miss Granger believes there to be a safe in this room, Watson. I'm sure she is right.
But she's never seen it, Holmes. I suppose it is possible that what the detectives refer to as a safe may not be a safe at all.
An efficient office, is it not, Watson? Though the decorations are a bit too austere for my taste.
Oh, indeed. Not nearly so comfortably appointed as our own rooms.
Okay, let's go and find this safe. It's easy when you know where to look. And what is this? HM. And what do we have here? Oh. Okay. Again, I'll keep this on screen for a few seconds, but feel free to pause if you want to read it more carefully. So as it turns out, Paul is Anna's son. Oh, yes. And it seems like Lord Bromwell is the father. Let's go and speak to Lord Bromwell.
An impressive old home, is it not, Watson?
Well, there's a fine line between opulence and tasteless ostentation, Holmes. If the facade of this home is any indication of what we may find inside, I suspect the Bromwells have crossed it.
This house has been here for centuries, Watson. Let's not judge the current lord, lest we blame him for the excesses of his ancestors.
I stand rightly rebuked, Holmes. Thank you for that salutary reminder.
Trade deliveries are to use the rear entrance.
We wish to see Lord Bromwell.
Was his lordship expecting you?
He is not.
His lordship accepts no solicitations. Are you selling something?
No, we found some property which belongs to his family, and we wish to return it.
You may give it to me, sir. I'll see that he gets it.
I'm sure you would, but I'd rather give it to him personally.
Believe me, sir, his lordship is not in the habit of rewarding people for any reason whatsoever. You might save yourself any trouble by giving what you have to me.
I'm afraid I must insist upon seeing Lord Bromwell.
Very well. Give me your card, sir, and I'll see if he's available.
What a stubborn fellow.
Servants are often reflections of the people they serve, Watson.
Indeed. I'm sure our own Mrs. Hudson will be pleased to hear that she may soon be matching wits with Scotland Yard and making unreasonable demands for tea and biscuits at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Perhaps my point was overly general.
I'm afraid his lordship is not available. Lady Bromwell will see you.
Same to you.
Please wait here. Her ladyship will summon you.
And wait we must.
What do you make of that distinctive odour, Watson?
Smells like a mixture of Turkish tobacco and horse manure. I'm surprised the butler hasn't tried to ventilate the manor.
This seems a promising development, does it not, Watson?
If the butler's manner is any indication of what we might expect to learn here, Holmes, I beg to differ with your assessment.
Have the decorations of this foyer in any way altered your impression of the Bromwell's taste?
Not in the slightest, Holmes. The idea of having a scale model of Laocoon in one's personal entryway is pretentious and proud in the extreme.
Enter.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes, what may I do for you?
Permit me to introduce my colleague, Dr. John Watson. Thank you for seeing us.
Not at all. My husband is otherwise engaged at the moment. Pettigrew said you had something that belongs to us.
I have a cap which I believe belongs to your son, Paul.
If it is Paul's, I shall have to reprimand him for losing it. How do you come to have it?
It's a rather long story. He's a very pleasant lad. While talking to him, we learned that Miss Anna Caraway was once in your employ. Do you know where she now lives?
Silly and disobedient boy. Lord Brummel would be most displeased were he to learn that Paul was sharing stories with total strangers.
Lady Brumwell, let me assure you of our motives. The doctor and I are investigating the murder of Anna's sister, Sarah Caraway. We were hoping that you might know where Anna or any other Caraway family members might be found.
I'm sure I do not. I never knew Anna, to speak of any of her family. In the end, Anna became unsuitable as a house servant. We had to dismiss her.
How was it that you came to retain her? Who referred her to you?
I've long since forgotten that, Mr. Holmes. Now, gentlemen, if there is nothing else...
Watson, has any new revelation struck you that might help us in this affair?
Not as yet, Holmes, but I'll keep my wits about me.
Has your butler been with you long?
His entire life. He's grown old in this house, like the rest of us. Though I fail to see how that might concern you.
If I may, Lady Brumwell, might I ask about the source of that unusual smell? Does Lord Brumwell smoke an exotic brand of tobacco?
Indeed not. I suspect my husband's guest brought some noxious cigarette into the house. Now, was there something else in particular that you wanted?
We have a letter that I believe Lord Brumwell would be very interested in seeing.
You are becoming quite tiresome, Mr. Holmes. If you give me the letter, I will see that Lord Brummel gets it. In due course.
This letter is very important, and I insist that I see Lord Brumwell in person. The letter was written by the late Dr. Smithson.
Dr. Smithson? Oh my, perhaps you should see Lord Brumwell, after all. He's beyond the double doors in his study.
Give me a moment to collect my thoughts, gentlemen. Then you shall have my full attention. Just a moment, gentlemen. I shall be finished soon.
And this is another occasion where we need to wait.
I won't ask you to sit, gentlemen. This, I suspect, will not be a cordial interview. We don't have to pretend to be friends, do we?
Quite right, Lord Brumwell. The direct approach is generally the most satisfactory. You are doubtless aware of the purpose of our visit.
You're making a nuisance of yourself, disturbing me this way. I don't know why you fellows can't mind...
Do not waste my time with trivial prevarication, sir. A young woman's life is at stake. A woman whom I have reason to believe was once very dear to you.
Who? Anna Caraway? Never. I barely knew. She...
Resistance is useless, Lord Brumwell. I have Dr. Smithson's letter. It contains sufficient testimony for any court to convict you of a heinous crime.
Smithson was an idiot. I can't prove that he was delirious. He was in love. He was insane. He knew nothing about...
Cease and desist, sir. 3 innocent people are dead. Robert Hunt is in custody and will surely hang. Likewise, George Blackwood and you, sir, are as responsible for these 5 deaths as if you had personally put a bullet in their brains. Will you see Anna Cattaway, the mother of your child, dead as well?
Smithson tried to ruin me, ruin my reputation. And that bungler Blackwood. And Hunt, the moron. I'm surrounded by incompetents and hopeless lunatics. I should have done it myself. I was a fool. I've destroyed the only thing I ever loved.
Do you know where Hunt has taken Anna?
No. Have you tried his flat?
We don't know where he lives.
Has a place on the Lambeth Road, number 252.
Will you come with us to Scotland Yard, Lord Brumwell?
Allow me the dignity of turning myself in, if you would, Mr. Holmes.
Oh. Something tells me that he isn't going to turn himself in. So how do we escape this room then? Okay, so it doesn't actually give you a clue. What we need to do is turn this sword. And that doesn't really give you a clue either. But as soon as you move the sword, there we go. And for some reason it is already unlocked. Whoops. Helps if I open it first. And what we have is this key. And I should probably speak to Watson before we leave.
A room of great age and character, is it not, Watson? It's almost as if we had stepped back into the Conqueror's time.
Indeed, Holmes.
I believe Lord Brumwell knows the game is lost, Watson.
It's time to pay the piper. If you don't mind, I'll reserve my sympathy for someone who is more deserving of it.
I heard it all. I knew it would come to this. Lies, deceit, murder. Where will it end?
His lordship left the study in a highly agitated condition.
He said he'd never be taken alive. That he would do away with himself rather than suffer humiliation of exposure. I don't know what I'll do without him.
We will try to find Lord Brumwell and prevent him from doing anything rash. Do you have any idea where he would have gone?
No, I have no idea. Please find him. I am surely lost without him.
We are on our way, my lady. Watson, has any new revelation struck you that might help us in this affair?
Not as yet, Holmes, but I'll keep my wits about me.
Alright, let's go. We will slowly amble our way towards Lord Brumwell.
Mr. Holmes! Mr. Holmes! I found him! Please help me to stop him!
Brumwell was a bad sort, but I hate to see anyone die that way. I'm glad you didn't succumb to the same fate. I was becoming quite worried when you didn't surface for such a long time.
I stayed down as long as I could. It was just too dark and murky under the water to find him.
Such a waste of life.
Yes, indeed, Watson. But we must focus our attention to the case before us, lest we would lose yet another life. Anna Cattaway is still missing.
Oh, quite so, Holmes.
Okay, this has been quite an action-packed episode. But we are almost at the end of this game now. Let's go and explore Hunt's Flat. Aha.